Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. One of the most frightening trends in American politics in recent months has been the prioritization across the country of conservatives and Republicans from state to state targeting LGBT folks. It is one of the, if not the unifying policy priorities of the modern Republican Party in this year, 2023. It's especially pronounced at the state level. The American Civil Liberties Union says it is tracking nearly 400 anti-LGBT bills across the country. Tennessee, to name one state, is home to multiple examples of this particularly noxious trend. There is a new law criminalizing many types of drag performance. Does 12th Night fall under that? We'll find out, I guess. And a bill working its way through the legislature, which would allow state clerks to refuse to officiate gay marriages if they so choose. But it's not just the states. We are seeing this disturbing trend at the national level as well, of course. Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, who informally kicked off his widely expected presidential campaign today, made his name on the national stage in part by championing Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay bill. Donald Trump is trying to outbigot the rest of his party by pledging to ban any federal agency from, quote, promoting the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. And I have to say, for close to a decade now, I think a lot of folks, and I will say, particularly straight cis allies, thought these kinds of attacks on LGBT people were, for the most part, behind us. It was not very long ago the kind of state-enforced bigotry against trans folks we are now seeing proposed across the country was a massive nationwide scandal. 7 years ago, you probably remember, back in 2016, North Carolina's then Republican Governor Pat McCrory signed what was colloquially known as the bathroom bill. The law forced trans individuals to use the bathroom of the gender they were assigned at birth rather than the gender they identify as. And to say the law caused an uproar would be an understatement. It was a monumental controversy. A bunch of high-profile companies severed ties with the state, including PayPal, which canceled plans for new offices there. The NCAA pulled 7 championship games out of North Carolina. The NBA moved its planned 2017 All-Star game out of Charlotte. Musicians, including Bruce Springsteen and Ringo Starr, canceled concerts in the state. And then that year, Pat McCrory lost re-election to Democrat Roy Cooper. In a state Democrats have increasingly struggled to win, and polling after the election suggested that legislation played a big role. Now, Roy Cooper repealed the most objectionable parts of the bathroom bill. Even as recently as a year or two ago, it was still being cited as a classic example of Republican overreach on cultural issues. That's especially after Donald Trump, who's always kind of had his finger on the pulse of the Republican base, said that Republican reality star Caitlyn Jenner, trans woman, could use whatever bathroom she wants at Mar-a-Lago. And that seemed like a watershed moment. A lot of folks, again, I think mostly cis folks, could be lured into believing that those kinds of fights were behind us, that there was a new settled consensus. But also, lots of other people, particularly voices in the trans community, warned that was not the case. And they were right. Just last month, the Human Rights Council said it is now tracking, quote, more bathroom ban bills filed than in any previous year. Tennessee, Alabama, and Oklahoma already have them on the books, and they're moving through other state houses. And bathroom bills are just one weapon in a resurgent Republican war on queer folks and the queer community. And in a lot of ways, in some ways, it feels like we are back in the mid-2000s when Republican conservative politicians and strategists tried to use gay marriage in particular as a so-called wedge issue to divide voters along cultural lines. And with the return of that kind of politics also comes a return of a very specific kind of political scandal, one that happened all the time back then, like couldn't go through a week. That is the anti-queer Republican politician who gets caught up in a scandal involving the queer community. Probably the most famous example, although really there are dozens, is former Idaho Republican Senator Larry Craig, a vehement opponent of gay rights. Craig pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct back in 2007 after he was arrested by an undercover police officer who says Craig was trying to solicit sex in an airport men's room. It led to, among other consequences, an incredibly awkward interview with NBC News.
He had a gesture toward the door like this. He didn't tell that, did he? He said, and I said no. And then another gesture, and I stepped up, pulled my pants up, and stepped out. I was immediately grabbed by him. And I said, "What's going on here?" And he jerked me out of the bathroom.
I have to tell you that, I mean, we all can be naive and we all can live in our own world. And I thought, am I just out there somewhere being naive? And I honestly believe my husband has always been faithful to me in every way.
Now, Larry Craig's the most infamous example, but far from the only one. Around this time, there were many similarly anti-LGBT Republicans who were either caught in similar scandals or ultimately came out as gay after leaving office. And it's all happening again. Because again, they, the opponents of equality, have wrenched us backwards in time. And so now we are experiencing scandals similar to the ones that we had 15 years ago, this time in Tennessee. Tennessee, of course, the site of those multiple anti-queer bills and laws I mentioned earlier being pushed by the state Republican Party. There, the state's Republican Lieutenant Governor, Randy McNally, is in the headlines this week for his Instagram account.
Tennessee Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally finds himself facing accusations of hypocrisy after a progressive site unearthed his social media interactions with a 20-year-old gay model, among them provocative posts that were liked by the 79-year-old Republican, including one where the young man doesn't appear to be wearing clothes.
When people see these posts, what should they take away from them?
Well, I don't know that they should take away a whole lot.
There was also this post where the man said he was, quote, not a whore, but a hoe. One is a slut, the other is a prostitute, adding, I'm the one that gets free weed for giving, then a reference to a sexual act.
And it was liked by Lieutenant Governor McNally.
Yeah. I don't know that, a lot of times on people's posts, you see the name and you see what they've written and you just press the button that says like.
So you didn't read that post?
I don't recall reading the part about the weed. I know that.
But what about the prostitute?
I might have read that.
Now, to be clear, there's lots of other queer folks that the lieutenant governor follows and comments on and gives them, fire emoji, heart emojis to their photos. And honestly, I couldn't possibly care less because I truly and firmly, to every last cell of my being, like many of you, I'm sure, believe everyone and every person should be able to just safely, comfortably live their truth. And, and if you like someone's hot selfie, whatever. But again, that cannot happen. We can't go into that world until Republicans, like the state Republicans in Tennessee, of whom he is a member, end this cruel and pointless crusade against queer folks.